This broadcast is inappropriate for all ages, right here on hashtag WeAreMovieClub. I am Cameron. This is hashtag WeAreMovieClub. This is a kitty, and she's going to be mad at me because she came over here for attention, and then I'm messing with her. But I'm Cameron. I'm here talking about movies. Movie of the week that's been selected. I want to mention a couple housekeeping type things. First off, just watching The Black Cauldron. If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. If you're a fan of old or classic Disney animation stuff, they do some very different things in there, not only with the British voice acting, but they do actually animate the movie slightly differently. There's some very notable scenes where it's stills that are being moved as opposed to the cell animation that's happening, and the contrast between the two makes it glaringly obvious of what's what. But it's just interesting to see that, because my impression was that Disney was proud of their painstaking cell animation, or their slave studios, however you want to phrase it. The other thing is that later today, if you were to watch this live, Monday Night Moviesaurus with the Birdiesaurus from the Weirdlings community. So if you get a chance, you can go over to Rabbit, RABBIT/the Birdiesaurus, and she is doing Weird Movie Club's thing, which we talk about on Fridays on this channel now. And so the watch for this week's, which was Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, happened last night, along with Bad Movie Night on Rabbit/Camerai. So you can look out for those events, or find out or keep track of those rooms to help keep up with us. You are being so good right now. You're amazing. Oh, your whiskers are all funny. It's so funny because the end of each, or some of them are curling. I wonder if I should clip them. Do your whiskers need a haircut? You want to talk about pirates? You like pirates, don't you? You like pirates. That's how you live your life. So I've got my notes and a review up there. We are also posting on WeAreMovieClub.tumblr.com now. I'm going to start posting like really brief, small movie reviews. I'm just kind of like squeezing them in where I can. What's the other thing? Oh, if you don't have time to watch this at some point during this week, I will be doing a bad summary for your pleasure, and you can watch that instead of watching the movie, and that'll tell you basically everything that happened. Yeah, so the rounds from last week went up this weekend, so it was fun to get back to doing those. There's lots of stuff happening. I think I'm cutting a couple of the products that I had tested, just because the formats just don't mix well. Right now I need the time that they would take up to do for other things, but maybe we'll get back to them. What do you think? Pirates? I'm sorry, you already said pirates. But that is what we are here to talk about today, is Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. This is the 5th movie in the series, and so far they have not released anything out of continuity that would tell me like that there's actually 6 movies, but you have to watch them in this order, or like there's prequels or anything like that. Fortunately, they stayed away from doing that sort of thing. However, there are several stories that can be expounded throughout this franchise, and I was really hoping that they would do it. Like I want to see Norrington and the Hurricane. I want to see that story. Salazar and Blackbeard could each have their own movies. I think Barbossa at one point could have his own movie. The adventures of the Pearl, Jack and Barbossa and that crew finding the cursed chest for the first time. Those are all things that this franchise could do, but I think the thing that they will do, I expect one more movie with them trying to get away from Johnny Depp as the lead, but they could very well go to a Netflix-style series. Now, if you're not aware, with Disney acquiring Fox, that gives them not ultimate domination, but a decent amount of control over Hulu. And before that, they were talking about doing their own platform, like Disney Go or something. So between those two options, it's either going to be a Hulu, or it could either be a Hulu original or a Disney Go original, which honestly would be a really good one to launch the platform with. That, and if they can get a hold of Harry Potter to finally do that fucking series, because it needs it. I think maybe it's a couple years off. So I really would like to see that. But to the movie itself, okay, we're going to put you down. You can go wherever you want, stupid. Dumb kitty. Alright. So, we really start this movie out in a weird spot. It's just some kid rowing out into the ocean looking like he's about to kill himself, and it's really a dark place to start, even for these movies. Now, if you didn't have the 4 movies of context before this, you'd really assume that something's wrong and that this is not the movie that you signed up for, but maybe I was watching Lemony Snicket's a little bit too much there. But we know that he's got to have something to do. He's some kid in some weirdness, and it turns out that he is Will's son, and that's what he's doing. He's going to the Flying Dutchman, which is amazing that he could figure that out. He's a really smart kid, because he's got to be like 12 or something, maybe 13. We did some of the math, and it turns out like he has to be 20 by the time we get done fast forwarding through all this stuff, and I'm gonna go ahead and skip there, because he like age 20 or something. It's because it's 9 years later, so it's 20 years after the 3rd movie, so it's probably like 13 to 17 after the 4th movie. Which means that there's all of that time there too that they could go back and do. And they did it as CG or animated, like that would be another option to go entirely. What do I even say about this next bit? He ends up, and it's no, I'm going to adjust this down. I don't feel like sitting up. It's no small crime what he does. Like, he basically attacks the Marines on board, the officers on board, and if at least verbally assaults the captain. There's probably a better way to go about that. But they throw him in the brig, obviously, and they sail in. I don't know why, but they sail into the Bermuda Triangle anyways. I think their point was to go get the pirates that were hiding out in there. But looking around, there's no fucking way I would sail into that bullshit. It's like this dark, ominous cloud on the sea for no reason. No reason at all. I don't understand that idea of like, hey, I'm going to do this. In worst case, use the boys' outburst as an excuse to not go in there. Or at least stay outside the smoke and hit them with cannon barrage. Now, granted, the pirates could probably shoot out even if they can't sail out. But whatever. So it's not even worth... This movie cuts itself together so strangely, even in comparison to the other pirate movies, because you're just, all of a sudden you're in one scene, and then you're in the next scene, and then they tie it in, and it's like, okay, well, I'm along for the ride. I'm just going to take my hands up, put them in the air for this roller coaster ride, and enjoy it. Because next we're in, like, a town, right? Isn't that where we're at? Because, yeah, Salazar slaughters the ship and sends him after Jack. I have the word Evie here. If you don't know, the girl who plays Karina was Evie on Skins, a British teen drama. So I put the wrong name in. I'm going to replace that. Yeah, I meant to do that already. Okay, so now I can call her Karina from the start, and I'll do that. So, we go to Karina escaping as a witch, which I think is an excellent way to introduce her character. Now, she's supposed to be really smart, so you would think that she would do something to her cell to make sure that nobody has it, but I guess she's also presumptuous enough to think that no one else can read it, because a lot of people are illiterate in this day and age, let alone can read star maps. And to her credit, they do have to bring in an actual witch to see what the fuck she was doing in there. And I don't even think the witch, like, looks at it and goes, "Oh yeah, it's magic. It does this." She's just smart enough to go, "Oh, she was doing this, and you're all retarded. So I'll explain it to you." And that character too, they did. Well, this came up in conversation in Rabbit. They did such an excellent job. If you go and Google her, sure, she's not credited properly in IMDb for whatever reason, but if you search for it, people have done the research for you, and they find her name, and you can find her name associated with it, and you can see that it's her. But like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even look like ethnically the same. Like, she looks really good with the bald head. She pulls it off well. It's amazing how much detail and work they put into that character, and then she really held the air of the character as well. So points to that way. I'm really kind of pissed her agent or representatives didn't get her pushed on IMDb a little bit more. She might be in the credits in the movie properly, but I didn't look there. So now we've got Karina on the run. We've got Jack, who wants to free his father from the Dutchman. So we've got motivation there. And as far as we're concerned, Karina just kind of wants to stay alive at the moment. Jack's also in a position. I'm sorry, Henry's also in a position where he's also just kind of wanting to stay alive at the moment because he's been marked a traitor. And even though he shows up in this convent, I don't know why the convent. He is chained to the bed, which this movie has so much bondage in it. It's ridiculous. But he's chained to the bed to keep it there because he's been marked a traitor by his ripped sleeves. So he just is trying to stay alive. Of course, Jack shows up robbing this bank, which they had a kind of ingenious plan. Like, the idea was to secure a rope to the safe and drag the safe through the bank out the wall. But for whatever reason, the safe's attached to the foundation. So I'm pretty sure when they were putting it in, it's like, well, they'd have to steal the whole building. And then they left room for that. So of course that's what happens. Plus, he had the invisible woman he was sleeping with in that safe, because she comes out of fucking nowhere. Because if she was in that safe on the floor, when he falls down off the shelf, he would have killed her, and then she wouldn't have stood up, hands down. But like, he's so blasted drunk that he doesn't even remember what the hell he's doing, and then he confesses to robbing the bank, and then the safe or the bank leaves from the perspective of the crowd, and then he gets dragged along on a rope. This is what I've been saying in the past couple days about these pirate movies, is they've got as much serendipity in them as Star Wars. Jack Sparrow's basically a space wizard, a Jedi. Sorry, that's my term for him. With all the luck he has going on, good or bad, it's insane the type of stuff that happens. So much that you would almost think there was a mystical force guiding him. Not saying he's a Jedi, I'm just saying the Force likes him. If you saw Rogue One, there's characters like that. Let's even call him Force sensitive. But there is real magic in this world of Pirates of the Caribbean without involving Star Wars. So you could just say, like, Jack's got magical backing. And that would actually be a whole other movie to ruin it, because they would ruin it. But to explain, like, why he is as lucky as he is. Okay, yeah, so there's this huge... It's almost a shell game of characters and whatnot, with Gibbs dragging the safe and the bank through. They finally get just the safe, but like, it's been open the whole time, so money's all been strewn all over the town. Karina's been running around. She gets thrown off a roof onto a cart, and the cart runs away, and I think she gets recaptured. Henry, Karina set him free at some point, and then oh yeah, he's the one that stays free long enough to try to rescue her later, and then Jack gets caught because he's an alcoholic, and he uses the compass to buy like one last bottle of rum before, I don't know what he thinks is going to happen to him, because as soon as you put the compass down and the room shakes, he should have gone, maybe I don't do this. But you saw how quickly the bartender does it. He actually intercepts Jack. I never noticed this before watching it last night. Jack actually reaches back for the compass before the bartender snatches it away and throws the rum in his hand. And then Jack's like, "Well, I've got rum," and he's covered in pig shit. So of course he walks outside in the rain to wash off. But someone was asking how the witch gets the compass, and obviously she's got a network of spies of some kind for magical items and such. And Jack Sparrow's a notable enough character, known for associating with wild tales and things like that. So someone's probably watching him going, "Yeah, I see you doing your thing, whatever." But with Gibbs and them mutiny and leaving him, that's what else did he have but to go get drunk and get arrested? Of course, Henry manages to grab them to save Jack and Karina, which is really interesting. Like that whole scene, because not only does he not have like Jack's luck, he barely even has Will's luck, and he flounders the rescue attempt amazingly, and he just starts punching guards. Like, lucky he didn't get stabbed and shot on the spot. But of course the pirates come in with a cannon like that, which is an equally bad plan, because then they essentially like draw attention to themselves and start a fight, and it's what, like a dozen pirates then versus these guys. And I'm trying to include Jack, Karina, and Henry in that. There wasn't a lot of people duking that out. So, and then Barbossa gets wind of Salazar at some point and goes to confront him. I don't know why this registers as a good strategy at all. "Oh, boss, there's a ghost ship killing all your folks. He's been eating our ships and just people left and right. It's a mess out there." And he's like, "Well, let's go and see about this." But he's smart enough to at least to bring enough fodder. I mean, to run the ship, yeah. But you would think like Barbossa, maybe himself, would actually go to Salazar and be like, "Look here, barnacles," and then like actually be like, "Hey, I can get you what you want. If you kill me, you can't do it." So there's your leverage, because that would be the Jack Sparrow way of things. Barbossa, it's a little bit more calculated, let's say. Sorry, I'm trying to check my notes. The problem with these movies, and I get it's really hit or miss on the way you cut stories like this together, because you essentially have like up to 5 or 6 storylines. I think 6 if you count Salazar. Maybe it's 5, because you've got Karina, you've got Henry, you've got Jack. Technically, you have Will. That would probably be 6. You've got Gibbs and the crew, because they obviously like split off from Jack a couple times there. You've got the Royal Navy, and you've got Salazar. So you've got 6, and then Will being the 7th. And they merge and split Barbossa. 8. So it's so many stories for them to cut back and forth. It's really a credit to the editors that they can get that to work. Obviously, it's written that way as well, but so it does make, when you think back on it, a little hard to talk about. But essentially, he goes and strikes an accord with Salazar to try to get Jack Sparrow. Of course, Jack, Karina, and Henry are all trying to use their wits and luck to land themselves anywhere near Poseidon's trident, which it turns out what Karina's thing. Someone who doesn't believe in magic or the undead or anything but logical science, but she believes in her father, who she's never really met. So, like, her faith is weirdly placed at times, but at least she doesn't go, "Well, I see him, but I'm not gonna believe anyways." She's just kind of an ass about it, really, when it comes down to it. But they end up going inland at some point, And then Salazar sends Barbosa after because Salazar can't get to him on his own. Gibbs and them get plowed by the Royal Navy. It's just this revolving shell game of who's getting beat up by who. Like they even like go inland and they get caught by these people at Hangman's Bay. And I say people because I don't know. I don't understand if it's like a specific society. I don't know what they were shooting for here in the presentation of this area. But of course they kidnap and try to force Jack to marry someone, and technically he does, if I remember it. Yeah, because Karina and Henry kind of trick him into saying I do, but then Barbosa shows up and ruins the wedding. Yay, I don't know. But of course everyone's trying to figure stuff out on their own. And I think at this point Gibbs and them have fucked off again, and then they get pinched by the naval ship. And there's a really gross scene where they're trying to like rip out some guy's toenail to pick a lock. I don't know if you've ever picked a lock before. That will not work. Do not do that. It's not even the hardness of the toenail. You would need a considerable length and purchase on the toenail to get the leverage that you need, and you won't do it. Don't do that to yourself. It turns out that Blackbeard has, Barbosa has Blackbeard's sword, which happens to be the thing that can reverse the magic that that has the Pearl being this tiny, tiny ship in a bottle. Because we were talking about that one point, and the guy was like, yeah, you just open it up and throw it in the ocean. Like, no, there's a bit more to it than that. But again, that means that Barbosa has a magic sword. Magic sword. He should be able to do a lot of things with that sword, like Blackbeard did, that he apparently isn't able to do or doesn't remember to do when it comes to fighting, especially with all these ghosts that you can't really kill anyways. You would think, like, and we've got the nerd girl there, like, you would think somebody would have research or get wind on something to be able to kill him. I think that's what they would have done in the first movie with Calypso. Now, it's quite possible because that didn't happen in the first movie either. She did try to give him the jar of dirt for Davy Jones, but let's see. Oh yeah, there's a great scene where like the ghost ship just eats the naval ship, wrecks it, done, because there's nothing on that ship Salazar wants, so he just kills it and moves on. It is kind of a bullshit power, but I don't know, they try to do some things with the ghosty stuff and it just being a Spanish ship. We've got the stuff with Karina and Henry flirting to each other. It really is the third act is really the scene where they really are just, it's all fighting. It's all fighting. We're spouted notes because it's just like this happens, this happens, this happens. The more interesting stuff is kind of what's happening during the battles and like why it's happening. And of course, Salazar wants to kill Jack himself. He wants that pleasure, if you want to call it that. So they're going back and forth. Jack's doing this weird runabout on the cannons. There's some bullshit. I totally call bullshit on this because another fun thing they were trying to do with the ship was they had the maiden on the stern come to life as an automaton, completely detaches from the ship in the same manner that Davy Jones's crew did, and starts dancing on the cannons as well to hurt Jack. And it's, I don't know. It feels old. It's like, what is this now? Like, we already had some stuff. Like, they also had the ghost sharks. And I had a theory, and I totally fell apart on me because I thought, because they mentioned that like they figured out at some point in their careers of this that they could possess people but it's permanent. And I don't know if it's permanent until the guy dies or what, because you would think that they would be capturing people in mass that came into the triangle and then possessing their bodies so they could be human. Or maybe they like their ghost powers. So my theory is that they possess some sharks, and then the sharks... I can't imagine the sharks were there during the explosion. Nor can I imagine the birds were there during the explosion. But that's where my argument falls apart, because if the sharks are possessed by members of the crew, then the birds were, and there's way too many birds, and there's not nearly enough pirates left to really consider that. What the fuck? Oh, okay, you're in the litter box. Cha-cha. So while all that's going on with Sal's trying to get at Jack, Karina ends up running the ship aground, and I think it actually kills a couple of the ghosts in the process, because the ghosts actually like dissolve once they get above dry land, which is pretty interesting. It's definitely a big drawback in comparison to the undead warriors from the first movie. So that was a really neat, interesting way to go, because you could like potentially trick them or trap them on dry land and then get rid of them that way. And then it also proposed an interesting idea: if the bottom of the sea was still dry land, even with the water moved away. It's like, I think they're okay, but maybe they didn't want to test it. The island that they run up on, especially the nonchalance that they do it with when they stroll up on that island, is bullshit too. Like, there's so many problems with this movie, if we're being absolutely honest. Just holes in the plot, weird serendipity, just even cloudy motivations. And then, like, the biggest moment being like when Barbossa realizes that Karina's his daughter. Spoilers maybe, because his world gets rocked, and then he finally has something. I don't know why I went to this voice. He finally has something to sacrifice that he cares about, maybe slightly more than himself, and because he gave up like a big hunkin' ruby in an attempt to buy her a better life than he thought he could provide, because girl being raised on a pirate ship, there's gonna be a lot of people who want to do stuff to her, regardless. And then he's literally carrying around a weak point for people to exploit. But this island, this island is one of the weird bullshitty things. It's supposed to reflect the stars, which it doesn't. At best, it is a one-to-one. I don't even like saying that. A scale replication of the sky, with the stars of Karina, or Poseidon's trident, whatever it's called in real life, being done with rubies. And these are like massive raw rubies, so this isn't like somebody cut a ruby and placed it. Now, they may have placed it, but like it's a big, huge raw chunk. And I don't know if you've ever dug up a ruby, they usually don't come up nearly that clear. So this is a very interestingly formed island, almost as if somebody had to use magic to do it. But if they did that, then why would they have put the fucking trident there? Which is another weird thing. Like, this is the one movie we get where like there's no backstory whatsoever on like how the mystical thing came to be. Well, we get the ghost pirate or the ghost ship people, but I'd really like more. I would have liked more in Poseidon. I would have liked them to cut the movie in half, pull out all the Royal Navy bullshit, because really they were just there to facilitate some bare amount of danger without the Salazar's troop just ripping them to shreds. And then like really extend things like dealing with Poseidon's trident. It would have been cool, similar to the third movie. I think they were after the chest, where like it shifted hands, and then everybody had like kind of a chance, even if they didn't do it right, to try to like do something with the power. It would have been interesting to see that. Where are we at? So yeah, so and like for whatever reason, restoring that chunk of ruby that could not possibly be in the same shape that it was, um, ends up splitting the sea for a really long ways. If you look at it too, it's we didn't need that. Like, do a circle around the trident. That would make sense. Um, but of course, Salazar's guys just sink down and walk up to the wall of water. He ends up using Henry's body to go get the trident itself, and then the trident cleaves him from Henry, which I don't even know why he cared. Like, why even bother? He even told Jack, he's like, "You cut me, you cut the boy," so he was protected. Um, though, granted, I guess he was trying to use it to cure the other curse, but maybe it didn't work. I don't know. There, again, not a lot of time to develop how the trident works, what it can and can't do. They're kind of like discussing it in the middle of a fight scene, for no great reason itself. And then they come up with the idea like, well, the curses must be inside it. Let's break it, and then there'll be no curses. So maybe it healed the monkey finally, at least. Though that actually got me sad. So they go through all this, and then all the Spaniards are returned, and then they're all at the bottom of the ocean, and the walls are closing in, so they're all going to die. Salazar is definitely dead, because he's the one that actually manages to climb up the chain, and then Barbosa manages to drop off, grab him, but as they're falling, Salazar smashes his head on the anchor. Barbosa kind of flows freely into the ocean, with love in his heart. So he's a lover returning to the sea. You would think that maybe there's some room for Calypso to bring him back to life, or just catch him, just let him float to the surface of the water, somewhat safe. I'm not saying that there's necessarily like dinghies or barrels or anything really to grab. Maybe he could grab the Spaniard bodies and make a raft out of that, and then go after Karina again. But of course, Henry and Karina and the crew all go back to shore. The Dutchman seems to be fine, so they have a ship there if they wanted it. I think Will's tired of the ocean at that point, and he's got to bank Elizabeth quite a bit to make up for lost time, which I'm sure would result in Henry having a younger sibling, if not Elizabeth's death, because it was still the time where, like, quite honestly, women died in childbirth often enough. Not all the time. Like, it wasn't guaranteed, but I mean, like, it was risky. It was kind of interesting to see them finally kiss. It was really like Karina was fighting it the whole way, and it kind of sends a mixed message. Like, I like that she's a strong, smart, independent woman, and they did that with Elizabeth's character, and Karina was very different. I'll give you that. They were totally different characters, but like it's almost like she was resisting it. It's a weird connotation to have, because there's nothing wrong with it, or like having her be the one that was going after it, which I think is kind of where they went with Elizabeth. So doing something there, and maybe she just wasn't comfortable. Like maybe like that wasn't her position, but like those crazy kids got together and they got to watch Will's parents bang in the field. Because I'm almost positive, giving this movie, that's what happened. It's like, oh, it's so good to see you. I must have you now. It's like, but let's see. I'll just mention it really quick. I went through and did a tiny movie review on the Tumblr, if you will. 95 for aesthetics, storyline 80, character development 88, compulsion 88. Final score is a 7.75. This is not a top tier movie as far as I'm concerned, but it is definitely pretty enjoyable. I think it's one that most people are going to enjoy pretty heavily. So I can definitely recommend this one. Hopefully you do it. It's a fun one to do, even if I'm just talking about it myself. We did about like 35 minutes now, and granted I had about a little bit of housekeeping there at the beginning, but If you would like to talk to us about movies and stuff too, hit us up on the Twitter at WeAreMovieClub, and that would be a good time. Again, come join us on Rabbit. Yeah. Until you see me next time, I am Camerai. Ooh, not used to doing this. Have a nice day. Nope. You want to see anything else we're up to, go to click the annotations. They'll take you to our other channels. Thanks for watching.